This podcast was created on Messy. Create your own show today at messy.fm.
Behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
And welcome back, everybody, to another week of Sports Brothers Atlanta. Once again, I am your man of the hour, followed by another man of the hour. I'm Matt, followed along here by Ro. We're going to get right down to it. Great series by the Braves, not only against the Dodgers, but we also want to talk a little bit about the Mets and the series that they had against the Red Hot Mets and kind of cooled them off a little bit. So, let's jump to it. The Mets coming to town, the hottest team in baseball. I think they won 14 out of the last 15. Got beat by the Nationals, so they didn't get to sweep them, but still a good series. Ro, let's talk about it a little bit. We had some pretty big question marks from the last show talking about the bullpen and injuries and things like that. And then, we come back into town. We take 2 out of 3 from the Mets. We take 2 out of 3 from arguably the best team in baseball with the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I was concerned against the Dodgers, but see, the Mets, I knew and I figured they was probably going to lose that last one because they were preparing for the Dodgers against the Mets. I figured that
right.
They won the first 2 against the Mets, so we already knew that was a one series. So, up 2-0 in the series, and they went into on the third game. I saw they're going to get blown out this game because they probably preparing for the Dodgers. But then when they played the Dodgers that first game, I was nervous after the game because I said, man, they just got spanked.
Right.
I said, I don't know. I don't think they're ready for these boys.
No, taking 2 out of 3 from the Mets is good because you knew as hot as they were coming into it that they were going to get one. They were going to get one game. There wasn't no way that as hot as they were going to come in and get swept. But you're right, against the Dodgers, the first night that we went out, Soroka held them to 1 run.
Yeah.
Right? A home run from Bellinger. But then, he was flawless from there on out. He looked really good. Pitches looked really sharp. And then Snit, with the decision to pull him in the 7th inning, we'll talk about that a little bit later on, brings in Newcomb. And he gives up back-to-back home runs. The game kind of, just gets out of hand. We lose the game 8-3. But, to be able to come and bounce back those next 2 days the way that we did was, impressive as it was. Let's talk about one of the most glaring things. I'm glad we got this series win and stuff like that against the Dodgers. But, social media was kind of outraged yesterday because of what happened early in the game with Ronald Acuna and the decision from Snitker to pull him from the game.
Why he got pulled from the game, what he did.
Right, so, let's just break it down. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but if not, Ronald Acuna takes a low and away slider off the top of the brick out there in right center, and he takes about 7 or 8 steps. This is a slow walk. This is like, me and you waking up on Monday morning out of the box, and all of a sudden he's held to a long single. Next 2 pitches, they throw over twice, and then the third pitch they actually throw to the plate is a pitch out, and he gets canned by 5 feet going to second base. That right there kind of ruins the whole rally because Max Fried the pitcher starts it off with a rope to right center, which is a double, which is, you don't get that from your pitcher. It's a really good confidence booster. And then all of a sudden, Ronald gets which should have been an easy double. Max maybe could have scored, maybe a little bit more experience on the base pass. He didn't really read it well, whatever. But still, we should have had a guy on second and third with nobody out. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we got a guy on first and third. For some odd reason, he decides that he's going to try to steal, gets canned, and that right there just killed the whole rally, right? Yeah. Ozzie goes pop up, Freddie strikes out.
Right.
That's it. And, so the decision to pull him, you guys can argue all you want about it. You yank him right there. It doesn't matter who you are, you yank him.
But he said he never had that happen before. Ever.
No, it happened.
At the batter box, he just walked it.
No, it happened against the Mets too. Is the thing.
Yeah, but he says it never happened before.
No.
But yeah, I agree with Snitker for pulling him. I do, but it was a gutsy call, and it was a high risk call against the Dodgers, especially. I was like, oh man, you're already getting what the score at that time was like 3-1.
Yeah, we were down. 3-1.
3-1 at that time, so I was like, okay, do you really want to do that? You'd already lost game 1, you won game 2, but this is critical.
Right.
You want to do it? Finding a guy, I like that better a lot of times versus pulling them in the middle of a game, a big game such as this one. The Dodgers might not see this as a big game to them, but to Braves and a Braves fan, this is a huge, huge series.
It's a huge confidence booster. You go, hey, we just took 2 out of 2 out of 3 from the best team in baseball. So we know going into October, if we can win the first round, we're going to have a chance to compete against these guys in the NLCS.
But it turned out pretty good for Snicker, though, by
Yeah.
pulling him down. He had to talk with him in the tunnel. I thought that was good, too, as well.
Yeah.
He didn't do it in front of
No. You can't embarrass the kid.
No, he didn't do that.
And now it's really up to Ronald on how is he going to accept what happened to him. Is he going to go pout in the corner?
And have an attitude about it.
Right, or is he going to come out and accept of what happened? He knows he screwed up, and he needs to come out, this next series against the Marlins and prove a point. And I think the lesson was learned. Snit did it the right way. He didn't embarrass him in front of all of his friends and his family right there. He took him out in the dugout and told him, hey, I have so much respect for you that I have to pull you from this game because that's not the way the game is played. It wasn't that he was grabbing him by the shirt, cursing him out, yelling at him. He took him in a professional manner and said, that's not how the game is played. And I have so much respect for you that I'm going to pull you from this game.
What I like about this, though, what Brian Snicker done, is he set the tone for the rest of his team in the bullpen. Hey, look, this is our star player. If I'm going to pull him, got the guts to pull him, that means all the rest of you, anything that y'all do wrong, I'm willing to pull y'all too. I don't care what the circumstances is. I don't care how far the stakes are in this game or not. I'll pull you.
Right. I mean, it was the way that the game ended, right? The grand slam from Ortega, one of the most, literally the most unlikely hero that we could think of this far into the season. But it was almost like the baseball gods or another type of intervention came on and said, guess what? You made the right call as the manager, and we're going to help you out right here. Because nobody in hell thinks that Ortega's going to walk up there and hit a grand slam, 100-something games into the year, right? He winds up and gets the job done, and it was kind of like a sigh of relief. It was like, wow, I'm really glad that paid off.
Hey, I applaud our closing pitchers. Good one. I wasn't pulling my hair out this game.
No, Shane Green looked really good.
Yeah.
He looked good the whole series. He looked decent against the Mets, but it really, all three of them really came together in that Dodger series.
There again. Remember when Brian pulled him? He said he wasn't going to play the next game, Sean Green. Remember that?
Yep.
He said, "Going to play." I said, "Man, that's a big mistake. That's going to be." Remember, I told you, I said that's going to hurt his confidence. He probably lose his confidence. Just got on the team. Just came from Detroit. I said, "Man, what are you doing, dude? You're going to start somebody else." And it turned out bad for him for that period. But now look what it did here later, a few games later.
Right. I mean, it's almost like a little fire underneath all of them. And you get that good win. Get that good win Saturday night. Shane looked really good. Melanson looked really good. Chris Martin even looked really good. And it was kind of like you could feel the momentum almost kind of shift in their favor. Their breaking pitches had a lot more bite. Their fastball had more sink. And it was like they're finally getting their feet wet and they finally feel comfortable in the environment. Because, Brian Snicker talked about this, is that, they're an extremely open clubhouse. They're welcoming. They're very welcoming. They're all, just good young guys who want to do well this year. But when you move into a situation where you're competing instantly, it's got to be a little nerve-wracking. We talked about it a little bit on the last show, but now that you're finally able to, have a little confidence, you feel more relaxed in the clubhouse, you're getting to know the guys a little bit more. There's not so much pressure of coming in and immediately having to produce. It seems like it's kind of taking a turn for the better now.
Yep. And you got upcoming 3-game series against Miami.
Yeah, we can't have what happened last time when we were down in Miami, that 2-2 split.
No.
You've got to take all three from these guys because the schedule coming up we have Miami, the Mets, and then I think we go to Colorado for a game, the rain or snow makeup game from early in the year. And then we head out to Toronto
for 2 games.
Yeah, and then we get the White Sox back home. So this right here, they were talking about it on Fox Sports. You've got to blow this lead wide open right here, right? We talked about the lead that we want going into 10 games going into September. Yes. This is the chance right here. I mean, you should win 90% of these next ball games. I only see we should only lose 2 to 3 at the most. And so it's like this is the time because the Nationals are starting to get hot again. They had like 7 home runs or something like that yesterday in their game. So it's like we cannot allow them to catch fire right here. And this is the chance where we got to separate ourselves from the pack.
Yeah, I think it's good, man. The Mets is going to be a real test. So definitely, when we get ready for them next, so we go there for 3 games, we're really going to have to do some damage there.
Yeah,
because they're nipping on the heels. I'm looking at the standings right now, and it looks to be that the Mets are 4 games in back of the Nationals, and then they're 9 games in back of the Braves, which I like that. but the Nationals are only 5.5 games away from the Braves.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is the time right here you got to take advantage.
You only got one more week left in this month.
Right. Yep, we do. And, you look at the Mets right here, they've kind of been resurgent in the second half, and they still have a very legitimate chance of making the wild card game. They're only 2.5 games out from being in the wild card game, but this is a chance right here to bury that team yourself as far as the division, right? So if you could take these guys out, single-handedly by yourself, right here you got a chance to do it in New York. You take 2 out of 3 or sweep them in New York. That pretty much seals them off for them having any remote shot at getting in as far as the divisional series. But yeah, wild card. Look, there's only 2 teams that are out of it as far as the National League, and one of them is the Marlins, and the other one I think is Colorado.
Let's look at it right now. If the playoffs started today, here's what it looked like. Dodgers number 1, they're 82-44. The Braves are 74-52 at number 2. Then at third spot, by the Cardinals, 65-57. So the leading wild card team right now is the Nationals at 67 and 56 losses. So the Cubs is right on nipping on their heels by 1 game.
Right. So it would be the Nationals and the Cubs if the season ended today. Yeah. Which is interesting because the whole year we've been thinking that in the first round we play the Cubs. I tell you right now, I love our chances playing the Cardinals. I take it a lot more than I would play in Chicago because I don't want to go to Wrigley Field.
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with that brutal up there. Yeah. You just go to St. Louis. Mm-hmm. I don't know where they've come from. They kind of just hung around all year. It's not like they really shot out of a cannon. There's nothing really special that they've done. But that NL Central right now is just a bloodbath. Like, these guys are just beating up on each other. That's why no one's ever, since April, no one's been able to really separate get any ground on anybody.
You can't.
Is because they don't go off on a run, right? Even if they win 4 or 5 in a row, they'll turn around and lose 4 or 5 in a row. It's hard, none of them have really produced any type of consistency.
Well, after the Dodgers and the Braves, everybody else is close, 1 or 2 games apart.
Right.
And that's 3 through about 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even close. The Reds are what, 6.5? Is that what it is? 6.5 games out?
Yep.
Yeah,
they got playoffs. Yeah.
They got Trevor Bauer at the trade deadline. They got some young guys like Aquino making just moonshots of home runs. This team's got a spark of energy into them. So realistically, they're not out of it either.
But Milwaukee and Philly's been pretty consistent.
Yeah,
along with the
Philly is on their way down. I figured this would be about the time of the year that they would make their fall off the cliff and kind of tumble down. Starting pitching has been questionable. Other than Bryce Harper, who's been on a tear recently, there's not really much to talk about as far as Philly. And then you look at Milwaukee, and their starting pitching is atrocious. Yeah. Their starting pitching wouldn't get the job done in high school sports over here in Georgia. Yeah. So I guarantee you, I don't think Milwaukee makes the playoffs.
Okay.
I guarantee you that Philly does not make the playoffs.
Okay.
Other than that, there's no telling.
Nope, because the Mets and Cubs are real close, so I don't want to play either one of them in the playoffs. Period.
And the team that's got the best chance, honestly, is the Mets because of their starting pitching.
Yeah.
You got DeGrom, Syndergaard, Matz, Stroman, and Zach Wheeler. That right there is, if those guys get on a roll,
they're going to leapfrog. They're going to leapfrog over the Cubs.
Yeah, they are. I think the Nationals are pretty much. I think ESPN had them at like a 91-point-something% chance to make the playoffs. I think the Nationals are pretty much a lock for that home spot in the wild card.
I think so too.
And it's going to be up. I think it's either going to be the Cubs or the Mets. Honestly,
Mets.
I don't see any other team.
You got another 5 weeks to go?
Yeah, about 5-6 weeks. Here we're closing in on the third part of the season, which means we got pretty much 1 quarter left. Which is about 40-ish games.
Yeah, we're doing all this. Think about it. We're doing all this with a lot of injuries on the Braves.
We are.
Wow.
And it's impressive. And that's what, we were going to kind of get into that as well, is that I was thinking about kind of, after the series with the Dodgers, is that, man, it's a great, first of all, I'm so glad, and I hate being negative on this show sometimes, but, the Dodgers team that we played is not the team we're going to see in the playoffs. They're missing Kike Hernandez.
Yes.
They're missing Verdugo. And we also didn't see Kershaw or Walker Buehler on the mound.
So true.
Right, so we took 2 out of 3, and you're like, okay, good. I'm glad, because that's a huge confidence booster. But that's not the team we're going to play in the playoffs.
It ain't.
But then you can look at it the other way around and said, well, the guy who won us Game 3 in that series has no business being on the Atlanta Braves roster right now in this position that we're in.
Yeah.
Right? Ortega had no business being up in the big leagues, but he got the job done.
Yeah.
When we look, we got Joyce out in the outfield, we got Culberson out in the outfield, we got Andy Hechavarria that we just signed to a major league contract, who's been lights out so far. But those guys are just filling in holes until we can get our guys back and get rolling again.
I like our team. I like Chance when we're young. That's another thing I like about it. But, the Dodgers, they got to pick to win it all.
Yeah.
They do. And they got them really against Houston. But I think the Yankees could slide in there, too. They got a chance against Houston also as well. But they've been dealing with a lot of injuries also as well. So I really think they can slide into as well. But
yeah, to go along with the Yankees, I think Astros are the team out of the AL that's coming to the World Series.
Yeah.
Yankees always have too many injuries at the most critical times.
They do.
And
right.
it's really upsetting because that team's special. But the Astros starting pitching and their lineup,
They're
no
good.
chance.
They're good.
As of right now, they'd be my pick to win the World Series.
They're good.
In my opinion. I'm
The
about to.
The Yankees have the hitters, though.
Yeah, no, they do.
They don't have the pitching that they used to have.
And we're just talking about if we were so fortunate to get to the NLCS, those are going to be some outstanding series of baseball. Because I think it's going to be the Yankees and the Astros against the Braves and the Dodgers is what I would have right now.
Well, you can look at both series. That'd be great for both series to go 7 games.
Yeah.
Great for baseball.
Maybe not so much from the starting pitching side, but you look at it for the game of baseball and trying to grow the game back, gain more fans. That would kind of be the way to go right now.
Yep, most definitely.
So look, we really we were so excited to see what the bullpen was able to do for us. We got those acquisitions at the trade deadline. We went 2 or 3 weeks where they were just god awful, and we thought, oh no, what did we get ourselves into? This was supposed to be our Hail Mary, right? Our prayer sent up, saying, please, this is what we need, in order to make a run in the postseason. And we went 2 or 3 weeks going, oh no, we have no chance. We talked about in the last show. It's like we're not getting past the first round with the bullpen that we have. We might not even make the playoffs with the bullpen that we had. And then to finally see him able to turn it around these past 6 games,
I want
awesome.
Marquez back. I want him back for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Marquez got to come back.
I do too.
Swanson, need him back and healthy.
Yeah.
Definitely. He's got to be healthy.
Right. Swanson. Look, we appreciate what Hechavarria has been able to do. Signing the kind of quick turnaround with the major league deal that we had, but he's not Dansby Swanson.
No.
He's good defensively. He's is about as solid as it comes defensively, and he's been swinging a decent stick. For the couple of games that he's been up, but it's not the same flow in the lineup that we've had. Because, you look at 1 through 4, and that's all the same. But after you get past Donaldson in the 4-hole, our lineup's wide open.
It is.
We got guys up there that, should be in AAA right now, just having to fill in holes. Ender went down with another injury, which was pretty big.
Yeah. How long do you think he'll be out? They got him on 10 game right now.
Yeah,
right hamstring.
it's probably 4 to 6 weeks, which would put him probably at the same timetable as Markakis. In my opinion, might be a little bit later depending on how it goes. Quads are kind of a interesting muscle.
How about Swanson with that?
That's the thing.
Contusion.
I was just listening to the radio. Nobody has any idea when he's coming back, and there's nothing you can do for it because it's a bruised heel bone. There's not really much therapy you can do for it. It's kind of just a sit and wait game. Ice and moving.
What did his elbow last year?
No, last year it was the wrist. And that happened early April up in that game in Wrigley Field where it was sleeting. The wind was just howling and it was 22 degrees. And the Cubs manager came out and said we shouldn't have been playing that game.
Yeah.
And that cost Dansby Swanson pretty much the whole year because it bothered him the whole year. Uh-huh. And so people were like, "Oh, this guy's a bust. What is Dansby Swanson doing?"
His career.
This dude was playing with pretty much a broke wrist the whole year because he knew that we had nobody else.
Nope.
We wanted him in there, and this year he's gone on to prove it. So he's going to be. We can't go another. We've talked about this over and over and over again, but we cannot go another postseason without Dansby Swanson.
We can't.
This guy he's as solid as it comes. He's a huge boost for this team. He's a hometown kid.
Yes.
He gives the crowd a reason to scream and shout, and it's just the game flows so much better when he's in there controlling the infield.
But I like Donaldson though. Donaldson's been playing really good if you're late as well. Tehran.
That was rough, wasn't it?
That was a rough start, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Gave up 3 runs.
and it sucks too because it was such everybody was just so high on him. His last 10 starts was just miraculous numbers. We're like, okay, we won 2 in a row against the Mets coming into game 3. Oh, this shouldn't be a problem. Tehran's up there. The Mets look depleted at the plate right now, and they come up there and just pony him around like it's nobody's business. So that was a little disappointing.
You can't have that in playoffs from me.
No. And, that kind of gets into where are we going to go as far as rotation? How many guys are we going to go into as far as the playoffs? Probably going to see Snickers start to put his starting pitching on a little bit more of a pitch limit to kind of save their arm a little bit. He's been doing it pretty much the whole year with Soroka.
Okay.
But which was really good to see was I think Fried ended up with 5 innings pitched around 100, maybe a little bit short of 100 pitches. But let's talk about the performance that he had Sunday, giving up 3 in the top of the first, and then is able to just gut it out for 4 more innings of just lights out after that, which was extremely impressive because one, we didn't have to waste the bullpen.
Nope.
And 2, I mean, he just competed as hard as he could. He hit that double off, that screaming double off the right center gap. It was like, this kid wants to be out here and he wants to compete, what you love to see come October.
I do. I like that a lot, definitely.
And we saved the bullpen right there. Fried, kind of hung around, gutted out for us, which we love to see. And then Ortega, I don't know. I'm still shaking my head about it. They threw him a fastball and he did not miss. And that place just went berserk. It was awesome to see that this guy who, finally got a chance. He had like 21, 22 home runs in AAA. He did it. He only had one major league home run before that. The second one to be a grand slam to put your team in a big series win is gotta feel pretty special.
For those you just coming in and listen, the Braves are in number 2 spot in the National League, and they just celebrated their 2-1 series against the Dodgers, which is very, very good. And so we as Braves fans are very, very happy. In the American League, Yankees are still in first place, where the Astros are in second place, and the Twins are really coming in strong at that 3rd spot. So we didn't really talk about them also as well. They're coming in really, really strong. And the Indians are at the wild card spot, along with the Rays.
Yeah, the Indians aren't far behind the Twins, though.
Yeah.
I think they're like 2.5 games back.
Yeah.
Which today, MLB tweeted out, this is some cheese. I knew we had to talk about this on the show. They went and did the power rankings for the MLB.
Okay.
Dodgers 1, Astros 2, Yankees 3, Twins 4, Braves 5. Let's talk about something for a second here. We smoked Minnesota when we went up there and took 2 out of 3 from them.
Sure did.
And we just pretty handily beat the Dodgers in a 3-game series, and we get put in the 5th spot.
No respect. Definitely. Maybe because the team is young. But we've been dealing with a lot of injuries along with the youth, but nobody wants to see the Braves, it looks like, for as the media is concerned.
Well, I mean, no, go ahead.
Even last year, they didn't even have them in the playoffs, even make the playoffs last year. I heard one reporter said that they thought the Braves would probably make the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we're already on a 2-year run in the playoffs. Were you serious? With the young team we got, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, you remember MLB did all these. Pretty much, they got all their beat writers, all their big dogs as far as media to make their preseason predictions on who they thought would win, the NL East or the NL Pennant or the World Series, stuff like that. People had the Mets winning the World Series. They had the Nationals winning the World Series. Not a single person out of like 10 to 12 of those guys picked the Braves to be in any kind of postseason play.
Really?
Not one of them. And I mean, it was the same thing as last year. We won, we kind of got on a little run there last year, and these guys are like, oh, it'll pan out. I'll just let them fall off. They'll do it. Didn't do it, made the postseason. This year, before the season even started, Braves have no chance. The rest of the division is too good. The rest of the division right now is falling off. The wheels are literally falling off the wagon right now, and the Braves are just rolling.
They sure
and it's like it's like we got to win the World Series to get any kind of respect.
Right.
It's the same thing. We talk about it with the Falcons.
Same thing.
Nothing. Talk about it with the Hawks, although, the Hawks are the Hawks. We're not really going to get into too much into that right now.
Hawks one day.
But it's like, there's, like, what else do we got to do? We literally took 2 out of 3 from the 4th place team that you guys made. And then we took 2 out of 3 from the guys in first place.
Yep.
And for some reason, we get put in the 5th spot. I'm not really sure about that.
Me neither.
So kind of just going over our notes for the show, first thing, we talked about is we're excited. Football's back.
Yeah.
It's the best time of the year. This is when people complain about going to weddings on Saturdays because they got to miss college football and so on and so forth. But what we're going to talk about first is, something that's pretty big around here, and it's Georgia high school football, and kind of the thing that has really grown, as far as Georgia high school football is the Corky Kell Classic, which is something that's been going on for years. You got a lot of really good teams that head down to Atlanta and battle it out at the first game of the year, and it's really cool because they kind of are following the same footsteps that college has been doing with scheduling some pretty big games that first week of the year to really see what your team's all about. So I like how high school's been doing it here, kind of getting that really big game out of the way, but also really trying to find what your team is all about.
Yeah.
So me and Ro and David are going to be hitting pretty hard on this first week. We're really excited to see what kind of talent we're working with, what the year is going to shape up to be. So let's get down to it. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the defending region champs right down the road in Hillgrove, who opened up the year with Douglas County this year. They're kind of not really partaking in the Corky Kell Classic this year. We all assume that Douglas County should be an easy win for Hillgrove.
Yeah.
And they're set up in the driver's seat where they should be able to to do it again, as long as they got their heads screwed on straight, and some of those guys that they lost on defense isn't going to affect them too much.
No, they have the opportunity to win the region once again. They've won it twice in a row, so this will be the third year winning the region, 7A. What's that? Region 3.
Yeah.
Region 3 and 7A class. So I think they could do it again, but they got some strong competition this year for two teams, I believe. And that's McEachin and also, I believe, Marietta. Marietta was, according to last week, they were one in the state, but now they dropped to like number 2 in the state. But I believe that they have a real good chance to be number 1 again. We'll have to see how they play against this first game against Rome. They're playing at Rome.
No, that's in Atlanta.
That's in Atlanta.
Yeah,
game
Thursday night. That's the Corky Kell. Yeah.
So they're playing against Rome, right? This will be
Right.
the second year in a row
That they're playing Rome. Yeah.
But they lost to Rome last year in the opener.
Right, and if for our listeners out there, if you guys don't know too much about Rome High School, it's time to educate yourself because these boys might be in a smaller classification, but you watch them play and they look like some grown men.
They do.
I mean, just dishing out Division I talent, Power 5 Division I talent as well.
Yeah.
Just throwing them out there, to colleges, and it's like I first heard about them. I was like, Rome.
Yeah.
Like, who the hell's playing football in Rome? You go up there and watch a game, you're like, oh my God. Like, these are grown men out here playing football. No wonder they have so much success. They beat Marietta last year in the home
41-51.
Right. I'm
high-scoring game.
I'm expecting another high-scoring game.
Yeah.
As far as, Marietta's talents on offense, we'll get to that, But let's get back to Hillgrove for a second because you're right, 2-time, repeating region champ. And it looks like they should be able to run the table again until they get to those games with Marietta and McEachern, which those are probably the biggest games as far as Hillgrove's, I guess you could say, history, because, they're not a really old school. They, were, developed in 2005 or 2006.
They're 14 years, I believe, into their Ironside been coach there 14 years.
Right, and the team really didn't grow into its own until about 2010. They started off, the career run in the triple option. It wasn't until about 2010 that they really, kind of established themselves as a dominance in this area as far as football. But, I mean, these games this year I'm expecting to be probably some of the biggest games in Hillgrove's history, especially with, you just look at the amount of sheer talent in this region this year. I mean, this is going to be a dogfight for this region championship.
It is.
And one person's going to have to wind up going on the road the first game of the playoffs this year. Because we can all sit in this room and say, yeah, I mean, those 3 teams right there are going in the playoffs.
Yes.
And you can just throw in a 4th team for all we cares because those three teams right there are going to make a run in the postseason.
They will. Definitely, you look at even go back to 2014 where Hillgrove was 9-4, and that's where it really all started. They kind of fell off in 2014 or 2015 at 6-5. Then they went in 2016 5-6. But after that, 2017 they bounced back at 9-3, and then last year they didn't lose their last game. They didn't lose their first game to the end, right before the championship at 12-1.
Yeah.
So their coach Ironside, he said he wanted to look for consistency. He looking for no championship right now, no region championship right now. What he wants is consistency. Well, he's got that the last 2 years. So if they would have win this year, they'd be pretty consistent 3 years in a row with winning records. And this year, I believe, I've been covering Region 3 for the last 3 years now. That's 7A class. And I've been mainly covering Hillgrove, McEachin, and Marietta. And the dominance is really being by McEachin and Hillgrove. Hillgrove be number one and McEachin been number two for the last 3 years. And Hillgrove is really impressive, but they got a lot of competition this year because Marietta and McEachin are right on their heels.
Yeah, Marietta's kind of a new wave. There wasn't, at least when I was in high school, I got out in 2015, there wasn't too much going on with Marietta. They had the 1 year where they had Anthony Jennings, who, went down to LSU, kind of didn't do so well. He ended up at, I think, Louisiana Tech. But other than that, this whole Marietta thing kind of, showing up out of the woodworks is really good for Region 3 because now there's a third team in the fight. It used to be Hillgrove and McEachin played at the end of the year every year,
yes,
and that was the region championship pretty much.
Right,
even though they don't have one, that was pretty much it. And now you've got Marietta in the mix, and you lose one of those games, you can't slip up on the second game this year because you're going to find yourself traveling on the road in the playoffs.
And a lot of the writers don't give Marietta any respect because of their record over the last 5 years. In 2014, they were 4-6. 2015, they were 3-7. Then in 2016, they were 3-7. Then 2017, everything got bad, 0-13. And then last year, you look at their record, 5 wins, 6 losses. It was 5-6 last year. So now all of a sudden, people say, wow, how'd they get the number one ranking this year? And how they have so much talent where they can't put together a string of wins because they got the most talented team probably in all the county.
Right. As far as, just like sheer rankings, we look at 24/7 Sports, we look at some other stuff. But, yeah, they have 9 guys in the top 100 in the country.
In the U.S., yeah.
Yeah, if you were new to the area, you had a blind eye, you didn't know anything about the history of this area as far as football. If I wrote 3 teams on paper with their players, A, B, and C, and told you which team you would pick, you would take Marietta right now. Hillgrove's got Miles Murphy, number 7 player in the country, I think, number 2 in Georgia.
Yeah, definitely.
But you look at Marietta, they've got 9 guys in the top 100, and Hillgrove and McEachin are nowhere close. So, if I came in and said, hey, which team would you take on paper, that's easy.
I'm going to take Marietta every time because you got Art Gilbert, 1,200 receiving yards. You got Harrison Bailey, 2,800 passing yards. Then you got Vidal, you got him a 1,000-yard rusher. And then you got BJ with 5 sacks. These guys, and then you got Warwick with 2 interceptions. These guys last year, man, they were incredible. And a lot of these players are returning, so why not?
Right.
Their offensive linemen are strong. Their defensive linemen are strong. So, man, these guys, a lot of them are already committed, to different schools. But, man, they're going to be outstanding. If they can put it together as a team, I don't see nobody stopping them.
Right. No, nobody shouldn't.
They got to put it together, though, as a team, not individually.
Right.
Because individual stats, we already know that they don't win championships.
Right. So we kind of move on to the third dog in the fight, and that would be the McEachin Indians, who open up the year Saturday at the Corky Kill Classic against Brookwood. Brookwood statistically is, they're a decent ball team. They usually are every year. They got a really tough region, just like Region 3.
They do.
But this is kind of McEachin's thing. They're kind of the ones that kind of started this whole Corky Kell thing.
Yeah.
And I expect them to go and perform really well against Brookwood.
I do. They want to redeem themselves from last year's Game 1 against Coker County, where they got beat 41-7. So this year, I know that's on their brain, so they want to come out and be oppressive that first game with a new head coach as well. I watched them last week in their scrimmage. They did very well against East Paulding. I think the score was 54-7.
A lot to a little.
Yeah.
A lot to a little.
So this week they did their fine tuning already, so they really won't be ready for Brookwood, and I think they will be ready for Brookwood. And they only really lost 4 games last year, and the first game was against Coca County, and then the one against Hillgrove, they lost that one too, and then they lost to was it Marietta? I believe it was Marietta. Then they lost in the playoffs. So these guys got something to prove this year. Got first year head coach. You got a lot of returning players, and their rusher, that Jordan Simmons, he's a beast.
Yeah, he is.
Man, that dude is a beast. And last year they had 2,000-yard rushers last year. So these guys are a running team. They run exceptionally well. And their quarterback, 2,100 yards passing. Incredible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look at it. I mean, that's around 200 yards a game, which is, really well for a high school quarterback.
He had 20 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's the biggest
Impressive.
thing, too.
Huh,
Yeah. That's about 2 a game,
And with 2,000-yard rushers.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys, they got to really soar up their defenses. These guys are putting out a lot of offensive output. And their offensive output, these 3 teams that we're talking about, they're doing great offensively. Defensively, they're going to have to bolt down. Definitely, if they want to do anything for state championships, because guess what? None of them won a state championship.
Right. And the biggest thing is first-year head coach from McEachern as well.
Yeah, Stevens.
Franklin Stevens, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting to see, it was kind of Hockman's team for the past, close to a decade.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Stevens can do and kind of take reins of the well-established program over there at McEachern.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this year. I'm so excited, man. Definitely I am. But I'm telling you, these 3 teams you're going to have to watch. I'm going to be at all the games as much as I can. I'm not going to go up to no Rome, though. Well, you said it's down at the Mercedes-Benz, so we'll see about that game.
Yeah, we won't be down there either. I can tell you that right now. We're big fans of high school football. Don't get us wrong. But if you guys, want to go down there and sit in 3 hours of traffic, you can be my guest. Especially, McEachern plays on Saturday, but especially on a Friday night, you won't catch either of us down there.
Yes.
So, the plan is, the most exciting part about, being able to kind of start and do this is that those 3 teams right there is like, it's kind of like watching a college team play.
It is.
You look at the talent, you look at the atmosphere, like these schools do such a good job with kind of bringing out a really good and a really positive atmosphere for these games. It's Friday night. Everybody gets off work early, goes over there, hangs out, and has a good time. The Marietta football experience is awesome.
It is.
So if you're not really a fan of any of these teams and you're just listening, Northcutt Stadium is really cool. It's a really cool experience right there tucked into downtown Marietta.
They spent a lot of money on redoing the stadium a few years ago. My daughter graduated from there, and after she graduated, I think in 2014, they redid the stadium. They spent some millions on it.
It's really cool because that's kind of like a historic stadium. Like that thing's been there forever.
It has, and it's separate from the high school. For y'all don't know, it's separate from the high school. It's like about a mile down the road from the actual high school. So it sits off by itself right there, definitely.
Yeah, parking's tight if you are going down there sometime in the
power
in
on
the
the
year.
side street pretty far. But
it's an awesome experience. You get people who don't even have kids in the high school, that live in the downtown Marietta area. They just go and hang out and tailgate and just go watch. There's not really any important college games going on Friday night. You go out and you watch those guys play. And, with the way that this team is stacked up, you're pretty much watching college football.
Y'all definitely want to go to these games this year and follow these 3 teams. It used to be a 2-man race, but this year it's going to be a 3-man race. Yeah. For us, the teams. Marietta's joining the ranks with Hillgrove and McEachern this year, definitely, and it's going to be a dog fight to the end.
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to have every week. We're going to have a lot of coverage on it.
Yes,
we're excited for the season to start. We're going to be at all the games. We're going to be taking notes, taking pictures.
Yes.
We're going to, just be really involved with this region here because, we really didn't talk about the rest of the teams in the region, and we will at some point in this year. But, these guys are just so much ahead of the pack right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to really talk about the other teams when, these guys are going to run the table. They're going to run the table in the postseason too. So it's interesting to see how that's going to pan out.
No disrespect to the other teams in that Region 3, North Cobb, Kennesaw, Mountain, no disrespect to them or what's the other team?
North Paulding.
And North Paulding in that region. Those guys need to watch these 3 teams and learn how to play up to that level. Definitely. They need to get the recruits in there because they're not that far apart from the schools, So they really need some more depth. That's all they missing, those other
Right.
three teams that compete in that Region 3.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, guys, like Rose said, it's probably one of the most exciting years in a while as far as this area with high school football.
Yeah.
We're going to be out there. Be sure, follow us on our social media pages. We're going to kind of have updates. I kind of figure I'll talk to Ro about it a little bit more, but I figured kind of doing like a live update kind of thing with the Instagram story. The Instagram page will be going out this week. So kind of follow us on that. Our story on there will kind of be like live updates. On how the games are going. So be sure to follow us on there, and then we'll also be up there on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that too. So be sure to look for us at Sports Brothers Atlanta.
Yep.
And we'll be doing this pretty much, the entire high school football year.
Yep, we got a page on Facebook that's up now, Sports Brothers Atlanta. Look for us on Facebook. If you can't find it, you can go to our personal pages as well. Matt has his own personal page up at was it Matt Orange?
Yeah.
On his personal Facebook page, and mine's Ramon Stats Quarters. So you can find me there also as well. It's ROMUND. And also a shout out to some of the other players on teams that I got to know on some of the other teams like Wheeler High School, South Cobb, Pebblebrook, some of the other teams that I met some of the players, and they're real good players too. So in that class too, that 7A class is really, really, really exciting.
Yeah.
But Region 3 is probably the biggest of all of them. It's the most impactful teams, at this time. So, hey, definitely look out for it.
So now that we kind of talked about, GHSA firing back up, we got football this week with them. We've also got a little bit of collegiate action Saturday at 7 o'clock in Orlando. We got Miami and Florida. It's awesome. Like we said, best time of the year. We're so glad that college football is finally back. Although this game is probably not going to be as it's hyped up to be right now. I'm not sure why there's so much buzz. I mean, obviously it's a bigger game. We're glad they're not playing like, Arkansas State or something like that. But Miami has no chance in this game. You guys can prove me wrong, or you could try to prove me wrong all you want. Miami has absolutely no shot. Off-field drama, whatever, you name it. Florida's going to take care of business, and they'll start off the year on a positive note. I know that my counterpartners over here find joy in disagreeing with me, but I'd love to see you try on this one.
No, I won't try on this one, man. Definitely not, because
Thank you.
Miami is not even ranked this year in the coaches poll or the AP poll. Matter of fact, Florida's ranked number 8 in the country, and they can't move up in their rankings even by the win this week. I don't care if they win 100-0. It don't even make any difference. The only thing that'll happen if Miami happens to win, that Florida will drop out the rankings big time. They won't be in the 8th spot. I definitely count on that. Definitely.
Yeah, we're going to go for the trifecta. I just think that Miami, this is just a money game, exposure game for them. Clearly, they're in a rebuild right now, so I don't really see them offering too much resistance to Florida coming in and asserting their will in this game. So I got Florida running away with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing has been, in the news right now is the whole Tate Martell leaving Ohio State because he was afraid that he was going to lose the job to Justin Fields. Goes down because he thinks he's got a cakewalk in Miami, doesn't even win the job there, storms out of the locker room, throws his name off the locker, yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, as much as, the coach is going to say, there's no issues there, no drama there, you can say what you want, but that's going to piss some kids off in that locker room. Because, you come onto this team and they accept you and you fit in as like family, and to have somebody kind of treat you like that because they didn't win the starting job because the other coach thought the other quarterback performed well, it's got to rub you wrong in some ways if you're one of those guys in that locker room.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree with you definitely on that, man. But we're going to talk about this top 10 list because since the coaches polls was out last week, and this week we got the AP top 20 polls out this week. But we talked a lot last week on the coaches poll. Definitely we did. And we talked about the SEC poll also as well. So Clemson, I don't know too much that you want to say about them, but they got them number 1 on the AP poll this week. And they got Alabama number 2. Ain't nothing really changed from that. And Georgia number 3. Georgia, I know I talked to a few people this week about Georgia, and they feel that they're happy about being in the top 5. They really are. But I think they have a chance to move up only if they can beat Alabama. Once they start to beat Alabama on a consistent basis, I think they'll be up higher in their polls, but they don't even have them on the schedule this year, so unless they beat in the championship game, SEC championship game. So,
which we all assume they will.
Yeah.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. That's what it's going to be this year.
Well, everything's laid out for that, definitely, because their head coach comes from Alabama. They got a quarterback coming back for his third year.
No, this is it. This is number 4.
This 4 for him from?
Yeah.
This Frum's 4th year?
It's hard to believe.
Wow.
It really is.
Time went fast for Frum. Definitely, Justin Field, they lost him, but I was kind of, I don't know how I took that. I thought Justin Field should have stayed, knowing this is Frum's last year, because Jalen went on and stayed, and but I understand you want to go somewhere and start. Ohio State is a good place to start in the Big Ten, so definitely I understand it for that kid, man. But right now, Georgia, everything is laid out for them to beat Alabama this year. Right now, a lot of people think that the Roll Tide has a chink in their armor, and Clemson has brought out their little chink in the armor twice in the last 3 years. So if Georgia wants to pound on that, they can. And Tua, you pretty much take out Tua, you already know they got a chance to win. This year, Alabama, I still like Alabama as my favorites, but Georgia's right on their heels big time, and I think that game can go anyway. I definitely do. But I'd never count Nick Saban and his teams out. I won't, because he knows how to handle adversity, and he's only won one time back-to-back in his career. He's never won back-to-back championship but one time that I know of. So, but he's always bounced back. But definitely after those 3, Oklahoma, they got number 4. Who we got on that team that we're looking for?
Open up the year with Houston.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm really excited about Oklahoma. Obviously, getting transfer Jalen Hurts in there, and we talked about this off the show. I think that Jalen Hurts has a chance to really present his argument for being ready for the NFL if he chooses to go that direction. And I think this is the light and the only light he will get to happen when you have a coach like Lincoln Riley, who's been the quarterback guru over the last couple of years, obviously with Baker Mayfield and recently with their recent quarterback that just went out for Arizona. So I'm looking for big things for Oklahoma. I think their test is going to be the Red River rivalry that they have with Texas. That's going to be a big one for them, and I think it's going to determine who wins that conference. But I'm really excited for Oklahoma. I think they could be a wild card if the defense got better. I think all the questions are already always going to be answered offensively for them, but I'm just used to Oklahoma having a pretty balanced team since those, Adrian Peterson days. But obviously those days have kind of passed for Oklahoma. They're more of an offensive-heavy team these days.
Matt, I got a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
I always got a question for you all the time.
Go ahead.
And,
That's what we're here for.
So we can debate on something. Can Jalen Hurts win the Heisman Trophy this year?
No, I don't think so. I think he's a good quarterback. Yeah. I think that he's got a very good chance of leading his team to the college football playoff. But I look at people are going to remember him from the last 3 years at Alabama. It's like almost like he's going to have that stigma on him that he couldn't get the job at Alabama. He comes over there, and people are going to be, wow, he had a really good year this year, and I think he will. But I think people are going to remember too much of his flaws that he had at Alabama to hand him the Heisman Trophy. I can't remember the last time that somebody transferred like this. I mean, I guess you can look at Baker, but Baker was never really on the platform when he was at his previous school at Texas Tech, and then he comes over to Oklahoma. Yep. But we all know Jalen Hurts. We all know the reason he stuck around for one more year, but he got pulled in the national championship game for a freshman quarterback, and I feel like being on a national platform when something like that happens, I feel like it's kind of hard to come back and receive an award like the Heisman when there was so much negativity around that time built around your name.
David, didn't you just mention Lincoln?
I did.
How great he is?
Yeah.
Huh?
I did.
What do you think he can do for Jalen?
I think he can do a lot.
Taking,
What was the problem with Jalen? And I actually disagree. I think he is a Heisman favorite this year. I mean, obviously you can throw Clemson's quarterback in there. You can throw Tua in there. But I think when you look at their schedules, obviously we know that Clemson's going to run through the ACC. I don't think they have too much, resistance in there for them to really compete. It's set for them to go all the way to the national championship, as far as I'm concerned. But obviously Alabama's going to have their work set out for them in the West. But you look at Oklahoma, this is set up for Hurts to have a magnificent year, because it's going to take offense to win in the Big 12. So I look for the fact that you have a conference that's really set to be offensive dominant, which is great for Hurts. He has a lot of weapons coming in to utilize in the wide receiver core this year for Oklahoma, which is it's nothing to laugh at, nothing to sneeze at. Oklahoma has one of the better wide receiving cores in the country, and I think that when you go up against Texas, which is going to be obviously a higher scoring game, Lincoln's really going to be able to display Hurts' ability and his mechanics to throw better down the field. I think we saw some in the scrimmage game. He was able to make some comfortable throws, and he looked a lot better than he did at Alabama. And I think the narrative is going to be he came from Alabama, and he was just this athletic kid that could run the ball, could do anything. It was a freak of nature, but you didn't know if you could make the throw down the field comfortably or consistently, which he got exposed to. And I think Oklahoma will show that he's now a complete formed butterfly that's finally hatched from his cocoon and showing this up to the next level. I think that's what's going to give him the favorite to win the Heisman, in my opinion.
Okay, Matt, look at this, Mister. What is Alabama known for? Their offense. What type of style are they? And they have been for years.
Well, I mean, this is kind of
they're a running style team.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of
formation.
Tua's kind of the first generation in a while. I mean, they had Blake Sims, if you want to consider him a quarterback, but I mean, Tua's kind of the first kind of is in the Alabama history with Saban, these past couple of years where they've kind of switched from the game manager style of quarterbacks into a playmaker with Tua. Because you look at the past, you look at I guess you can say Blake Sims if you want, but the biggest one that sticks out to me was Jalen, who was able to do enough to get the job done. I would have considered him a game manager with his time at Alabama. And the biggest one was A.J. McCarron. He was a game manager his entire career there, but he got the job done. And I think now with Tua in, the reason that they are so much more explosive now, because you could say, oh, it's the wide receiver core. No. We've got two on the Atlanta Falcons right now that were explosive as all get out when they were over at Alabama. You got Amari Cooper that was over there. I mean, they've always had those guys, but they've had game managing quarterbacks. And now they have finally turned the page to somebody like Tua, who's now has the ability to turn it into a playmaker's offense. And that right there is the reason why their offense has been so explosive these past couple of years, is because now that they've got somebody to kind of grab this team by the reins, and you let the offense coordinator just have at it in the playbook.
Yeah, here's my problem with Tua, though. As good as much stats that he does put up, though, my only question for him, and I'm looking at the bigger picture. We all understand that he's going to be a prospect for the NFL at the next level. Can he stay healthy? Can he be longevity? Can he sustain a whole season? We know what he can do on the field. That's no question. But does he know how to just hold it into the pocket and really not try to make the extra yards and play the hero? That's going to be seen this year, of course, and he'll have the chance to present that obviously as the season goes. But I think that's something that he's going to have to show in order for Alabama to really get his face back from last year. And his face of that whooping they got to Clemson, obviously for that program. But I think Tua is set up to have a bounce back season, but it's going to be predicated on what he can do from the pocket and whether he improved his, trying to make the right play that's good to get a first down rather than the play that's going to change the game, which is what Nick Saban said recently in the spring session for Alabama. So that'd be interesting.
The only thing the knock I watched Jalen and Tua play. Tua comes in, he mixes the pass and the run up pretty well. And what I see also from him that may hurt him a little bit, sometimes he don't see the play all the way through. A lot of times he goes ahead and does his own thing and wings the ball downfield, sometimes into danger zone. with the safeties, and they read him sometimes. Jalen, he's a great manager of the game, but he sticks to the run way too much because that's where he's been programmed since day one, since his freshman year. Programmed with the running game, and they've been run heavy with the running backs definitely through his career there at Alabama. And when the play breaks down, he just runs with the ball to himself, so he sticks with the run. And he really didn't have no confidence in his throwing game, but I think Lincoln's going to bring out the confidence in his throwing game. I think he's been practicing the pass a lot more. So I think he's going to mix it up a lot more this year for Oklahoma. Now, he might not win the Heisman Trophy, but I just like to just throw that as a debate for it. You know, I don't hear it with you, Matt, and rough up your feathers a little bit. Nope. So we're going into this. But Jalen, I like Lincoln. I think he would be a good coach even on the pro level, too, as well.
I think so, too. And just, I just want to squeeze this point in. I think, Matt, it's set up. We bring up Lincoln Riley. I think he has the cachet that, to me, Nick Saban didn't in the recent, Heisman Trophy quarterbacks he has. So I think Jalen's going to be more receptive to allowing himself to change and not go back into that, I got to run, when my first progression is not there or my second progression is not there.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Lincoln Riley's, one of the best coaches as far as this whole new generation thing is going. That's why there's so much buzz around his name with the NFL. Because, the kind of the way that Arizona went with Cliff Kingsbury and stuff like that. But let's look at the bigger picture because Oklahoma did make it to the playoffs last year. And before I could even get up to get a second beer off my couch, the score was 31-0, right? And you look at it and you're like, Jalen Hurts can have the career, could have, the season of a lifetime. It doesn't matter if you go out there and the first time you get on the field, you're down 7-0. You have a 3-and-out, boom, it's 14-0. All of a sudden, you're going, oh, no. Everybody gets real tight on the sidelines. You start making real, conservative play calls. Or you go extremely aggressive, throw a pick, something like that, and it's a 3-score game. And, credit to Oklahoma last year because they tried to fight back, right? It became a pretty close game at one point, but it never had the feeling of a close game because you knew that when it came down to it, Oklahoma's defense absolutely stood zero chance. So, look, they could get in it good, and they can go 12-0 this year again. And if they go 12-0, we all know they're getting to the college football playoff. But it's kind of the situation where we're about to get to in a second with Notre Dame sitting at number 9 is that what is it going to take for this committee to finally realize that, one, you're either going to have to expand the playoff so these same teams don't get in or don't keep getting in, or stop putting these teams in when they slip up once. Because I don't want to watch Oklahoma go back into the playoff this year and go down 31-0. I don't want to watch Notre Dame get back into the playoff against Clemson and get ran out of the stadium. So there's gonna have to be something done. And as we move down into the,
man, I think you're gonna see that when they play UGA this year.
No, yeah, we are.
So you don't have to wait to the playoffs.
I was gonna get to that in a little bit, but we can talk about that right now. Here's the problem. Here's the thing I have. You get down to the end of the year. Georgia has that win against Notre Dame, and there's another one-loss team sitting there. Maybe it's a LSU, maybe it's a Texas A&M, maybe it's a Florida, maybe it's a Michigan, something like that. If they put Notre Dame back in the college football playoff, somebody is going to burn some type of city down, and it's not going to be a good sign because they're so sick and tired of Notre Dame finding their way back in and then getting smoked in the first round, and it's getting a little bit uncalled for.
They got the money and they got the power. But I believe, like I said, Matt, in previous weeks, man, they need to expand it to 8 playoff teams. 8. That'd make it more better because you got a lot of teams, even though they got 2 losses or 1 loss, they can still make it in. So now with only 4 teams that's allowed into the playoffs, you have a lot more politics, what I say, they're played, and a lot of fans are not seeing their teams getting into the playoffs, so they're going to tune out because the same teams are getting in every year. Yeah,
that's the worst part about the end of the college football year, which is so cool about how this whole country kind of comes together for March Madness when it comes to NCAA basketball. You got 64 teams in there. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Nope.
You put these 4 teams, like I knew last year that Alabama and Clemson were going to wind up in the national championship. Everybody in the country knew that Alabama and Clemson were going to wind up in the national championship. One, Oklahoma had no defense. Notre Dame didn't even belong close to that college football playoff. And then so now I got to watch a better game in Georgia and Texas in the Sugar Bowl that doesn't mean anything, right? I got to watch LSU play UCF to try to prove a point to their idiotic fan base that they're not actually national champions. And it goes on and on and on. These guys have really good seasons. They get a bowl win. Guess what? You get nothing to show for it. I'd rather go out there and lose the first round in a playoff game knowing that I was in the hunt for a national championship and I had something to play for at the end of the day.
Yeah, now if you expand the field, now you have teams like LSU and Michigan can get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, moving down, we'll go into the rest of the top 10. We have Ohio State at 5, LSU at 6, Michigan at 7, Florida, we talked about them already, at 8, Notre Dame at 9, and then Texas at 10. So kind of moving past the first week, we'll have a top 10 matchup the second week with LSU and Texas at Texas and Austin, which will kind of be a really good game going into the second week of the year. But, I mean, let's talk about this for a second. The first week of the year is always a little tricky. You don't really know what teams have. So is there anybody week 1 on upset alert? Because I know mine now. Oregon and Auburn play each other the first game this year. Oregon is ranked at number 11, and Auburn, for some odd reason, is ranked at number 16.
Where are they playing that game?
I don't know where they're playing that game. But I don't know. I mean, there's so many question marks about Auburn. I don't even think they have a quarterback yet. Gus Malzahn finally went back to calling plays, yada, yada, yada. And then you got Herbert over there at Oregon, who's probably the NFL's number 1 quarterback prospect going into this year's draft. I don't know if I see Oregon losing that game. As much as, being in the South, you want to root for the SEC, it's kind of hard to see Auburn having a shot against Herbert and those Oregon Ducks.
I got probably in that game against Arkansas and Auburn. I'm probably
Oregon?
Yeah, Oregon. I mean, I'd probably go with Oregon. I've always liked Oregon over the past 5 years. I have. I don't know why. It's something about Oregon. I mean, they always played a lot of schools tough. They have, but then some games they fall off, and then some games they play pretty tough. It's just something about them I like.
Yeah, I think Oregon has a better chance than what it says on paper, because here's my thing: I don't believe in Auburn. I just don't. I think the Gus Malzahn era is coming to.
No, it's over.
It's coming to it.
It's over.
It's coming to it. And
you don't have to make the sound effects roll. It's done.
I hear the fat girl warming up, and I see another 7-5 season coming for Auburn, and it's just going to be.
You said 7-5.
7-5.
Okay.
Yeah. They'll get their bowl game like they did last year against Purdue, if you even want to call that a football game or TV for that matter, because that was horrendous, but.
I know we talked earlier, and we didn't. I'm gonna put this on. I mean, I think the Pac-12 is honestly looking for respect. I mean, let's be honest. They've been the doormat of the NCAA. Yes. I mean, they've gotten to Washington in the playoffs every now and then.
Yeah, big thing with Washington, Georgia boy or ex-Georgia boy Jacob Eason, starter this year for Washington. Just saying, just throwing that out there.
So I just feel like because of the disrespect, because of the cachet of the SEC, ACC, and the Big Ten.
Didn't Washington have a good team a couple years ago?
Yeah.
And they was on their way to the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean,
but just that one loss.
They just fizzed.
Well, I mean, they were looking like the team that was kind of finally going to sneak in for the Pac-12 until they played Auburn the first game of the year and got blistered, and they were like, oh, you can write these guys off.
Yeah. So because of that, I think Oregon is going to come out and do this for the Pac-12. I think it's going to be a close back and forth, but I see Oregon edging this out.
So I mean,
I got Oregon too.
Let's look at the top 3 right here: Clemson, Alabama, Georgia. Clemson has Georgia Tech. We're going to talk about Georgia Tech a good bit on this show.
I like Georgia Tech. I think they got a first-year coach too as well, don't they?
Yeah, Jeff Collins. Yeah,
and they got a nice stadium. Nice stadium. Y'all been down to the stadium?
Yeah, it's beautiful right now.
It's a nice stadium, man.
Why would I go down there?
It's a nice stadium.
What do they don't play football in there. Well, they haven't been for the past years.
And the ticket prices are reasonable, man. So,
oh yeah, it was no wonder.
Go and take in a game, man.
Oh, we'll try. We'll try this year. I mean, this is as hard as it's going to be for Tech fans because there was so much excitement with the new coach hiring. Triple option is finally gone. Yep. You can finally recruit, which they have been in the offseason. I give them credit. They have been recruiting for these next future classes. This is going to be a rough year for Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
You're going into a completely new offense. The kids you have on the field were recruited for Paul Johnson's offense, and it's going to be hard to kind of implement a whole new playbook in this one off season. I don't see Georgia Tech having a good year, but I like how that game is better for Clemson than them playing at FCS school. It's a lot better than them playing like the Citadel or something like that. At least you're getting an ACC game in there. Georgia Tech, who's always, they're not good, but they're respectable to some degree, right? Okay, yeah. They're always a pain in your side running that triple option. Yep. And, so that's, Clemson's obviously going to win that game, but, at least it's a decent matchup, right? We might get a quarter and a half of good football out of it, but other than that, it's not.
Did I mention how great the stadium looks, Matt?
Yeah, well, I'm glad. Man. Those fans can go sit inside the stadium while they're getting ran out of the park.
That's tough.
Man, it's going to be beautiful down there. Get your popcorn ready, and, it might only be a good game for maybe one quarter, I'll say.
Yeah, and your tissues. You get your tissues ready, too, if you're a Georgia Tech fan.
They spent a lot of money on that stadium.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, and cool setup, too, because there's nothing like a night. That's what I always love about Georgia Tech's Thursday night games is you get the panoramic of downtown Atlanta and the nighttime right around the stadium before the bloodbath takes place. But anyways, moving on into Alabama, they open up the year with Duke. It's pretty much you can just replay those last 30 seconds if you want to talk about how that game's going to go. Duke lost Daniel Jones, really good quarterback. You can put air quotes around really good if you want. You'll let the Giants kind of figure that out, how that's going to go. But there's no chance in that game. Alabama runs them out of the park, just like Clemson will with Georgia Tech. Team 3, Georgia, Vanderbilt.
I like Vanderbilt, though. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they have no chance.
Well, it's a good academic school. Yes, good baseball team.
For that, yeah.
That's about it.
Baseball's good, too, but I don't think they have a chance against Fromm, man. He's an experienced quarterback, man. He's going to do his thing. It's going to be over quickly, and they got some good runners, too. Hey, man, it's a wrap. Good receivers.
Yeah.
It's a wrap.
The only other one that really kind of, Notre Dame opens up with Louisville.
They did that on purpose.
No, Notre Dame's kind of like the way that their scheduling works. It's like it's like you're sitting behind a computer if you're the guy, and you're like, let's do this to make it look like we're trying, but we're not really trying because you pick one of the worst ACC teams to put on your schedule to open up the year with. Now, credit. You gave them the home and home with with Georgia, and that's about to come back and bite you hard in the you-know-what as far as this year because you know that you're going home from Athens with a loss.
Yeah, you definitely are. So, Notre Dame, man. What you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to re-rant on Notre Dame. I quite frankly feel like they need to join a conference, honestly. But they're not going to do it anytime soon, and I've been saying it for the last 3 years. They have no legitimacy to their schedule because, they'll start out, they usually are a good September, October team, and then you're looking down the stretch, it's like, why are you struggling against Boston College at Fenway Park?
Or a completely washed out USC team, right? Or just, it's the same broken tape over and over and over again, and they find their way back into the college football playoff somehow.
They do. And they set their schedule up just for that, by being independent. There's a few other teams that's independent too, but
yeah, right now it's all about the NBC TV deal right now.
Yeah, they got that TV deal, so they're going to find their way in there because they're making money. It's a cash cow.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Notre Dame is set up to be a 2 or 3 loss team this year. I think Michigan's going to be a tough one for them. I think
Michigan State.
I think Michigan State, will be a decent team. Obviously, later on, they're going to have that UJL loss on their resume this year as well. So, I don't see Notre Dame making a return back to the playoffs given those circumstances. Obviously, they decided to put some legitimate teams down there with Georgia and obviously Michigan. Remember what they did to them last year, and I think they felt like they had no business losing that game. It's just they caught them at the right time, and when Michigan got going, they were one of the teams that were supposed to be in the playoffs down to that Ohio State game. So, and speaking of which, Ohio State's another one I think we got to be watching this year, guys, because
number 5.
New coach Ryan Day. Obviously, he's been there. We know offensively what he can do, but I'm just curious to see how the team's going to adapt without Urban Myers and if there'll be a little chink in their armor when Michigan comes to. I think this is Michigan's best chance to beat them this year, in my opinion, to finally get into the playoffs. And I think they have the best chance to do it with a new coach and some uncertainty in certain positions and question marks, in my opinion.
You think so? You think they're going to beat Michigan?
I said I think this is Michigan's best chance to beat Ohio State.
I was gonna say, man, you bet you. Michigan, I think they're gonna jump up and get in that playoff. They ain't been missing for the last 2-3 years, man. Definitely, they calling for the head coach's job. So hey, he's got a lot of pressure on him up there, don't he?
Yeah, no, he's got a lot of Harbaugh's in the hot seat.
I mean, he's in the hot seat, but this is my question to Michigan fans and the fan base. And I've been a Michigan fan for a long time, since I've been watching them since the early 2000s, since I was a kid. So I remember the dominant days. But firing Harbaugh, where do you go from here? This is my thing. I mean, I know you complain about you want things to translate to national championships, but it's just like those people that get up for Cleveland.
Yeah, but so does every other school wants a national championship.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to get it, and you have to understand your role. Not so much your role, but where you kind of fit in college football. You're Michigan. You're going to sit around that 5 to 10 in the rankings, unless you find some home run of a hire. But then again, it's still not guaranteed. So it's kind of like some of the other SEC schools where it's like you kind of just right now you just kind of fall in line behind Alabama. You're like, what else am I supposed to do?
And we all know on this panel, college football is all about names who are at the head coach. I mean, at the end of the day, those kids are going to come to Michigan because of Harbaugh and what he did at Stanford and his days at San Francisco. I think if you fire him, you're setting yourself up for 4-8, 5-1 seasons all over again. You're going backwards. Be patient, trust the process, and I think, like I said, this year, it's your best chance to get there with Ohio State with a new coach, in my opinion. So.
Politics. Open it up to playoff to eight teams. We won't have that much.
Yeah,
politics.
I mean, you won't have so many coaches losing their job over having good years. When you think about it, a 10-win season is something to hang your hat on, and these coaches are going to wind up getting fired. Because they're not making the playoff. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out in these next couple of years. Yep. But. Yeah, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. We're about hitting on that hour mark or so. We appreciate you guys hanging in with us for this past couple of minutes. Once again, we'll be back next week for a recap of the first weekend of high school football. We'll hit hard on the Florida-Miami game. Hopefully, there's something decent to come out of that to talk about, and then we'll keep you updated with the Braves and what all they do in this week. So we appreciate you guys. Make sure to follow us on social media for all of our updates. And until next week, guys, take care.